You know, I've played Fallout for many, 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 many years, since I was a child, actually. Like, before I was a teenager. And now I'm a 30-year-old man. And I just don't know anything about why bottle caps are the currency of Fallout. So let's check it out from Echo.
The wasteland merchants of Fallout have used all sorts of different kinds of money over the years since the Great War, from simple barter to jugs of water to real paper money printed by a government and backed up by gold. So why in the world do people still accept bottle caps wherever you go?
Weird.
The reasons may surprise you, but the humble bottle cap may be one of the best post-apocalypse currencies around, with the strongest factions of the wasteland living and dying by the cap. In the immediate...
Is it because there's a limited amount of them and there's no real way to produce more bottle caps? Is that a thing?
aftermath of the war, there wasn't really any money to speak of. People were too concerned with just living another day to worry about how much their US dollars were worth. Ammo, food, RadAway, and other essentials were the only things these desperate survivors needed, and they raided ruins and killed their fellow Americans to get them. Eventually, after the fires went out and the worst of the radiation settled, people started banding together a little more, forming small communities of settlers and independent roving scavengers. As those...
You know what always didn't make sense to me? I saw that Humvee riding around, or that Jeep, or whatever it was. It looked like a Hummer. Why aren't there any vehicles? Like, I understand there might not be any engine vehicles, because there might not be any engineers anymore, but there definitely are. But, like, why aren't there any bikes? Like, bicycles? Why aren't there any, like, pedal cars or anything like that?
People started to specialize, the demand for trade grew. Maybe a looter found a stash of untouched ammunition and traded it for some canned food another had pulled out of the local super-duper mart. Maybe a farmer started selling his mutfruit crop by the side of the road in exchange for mechanical parts to build a windmill. It was the age of bartering. As these groups started to grow larger, however, this unofficial economy got more complicated and people started growing frustrated with shuffling all these goods around. Who decided how much a Yaoguai pelt was worth? Is trading a combat rifle for a suit of metal armor a good deal? Not to mention the problems that...
Yeah, until you got currency introduced, it's basically just like feeling based.
...come from lugging around a whole pack full of random supplies, just hoping that someone...
Like, how much is it worth to you? Because, like, yeah, technically, a giant metal leg would be worth lots and lots, but if you have no use for a giant metal leg, then you're not gonna buy it. It'll be worth nothing.
...wants to barter for them. The people needed a real currency, something to bring the wasteland together to help the world truly heal and rebuild. And they found one. In the trading town of the Hub, the wealthy water merchants proposed a solution. They would peg the price of water to something so that its value was backed up by fresh, clean water, one of the wasteland's most valuable resources. What did they choose? Bottle caps, of course. Each cap was worth a certain amount of water, anything from a couple of milliliters to a full bottle, and the merchants had to honor that price if you came to collect. Without this backing, caps were worthless hunks of aluminum. They were only worth something when the Hub's families agreed that they would provide water in exchange for them, and this plan paid off. By owning a large purification...
So it started with water. The water was the original currency, and then they started using currency for the water.
...plant and pumping station in the city, the merchants could control the flow of water and, by extension, bottle caps, giving them an iron grip on the post-war economy. By the events of Fallout 1 in 21-61, caps had been going strong for more than 50 years. With caps now backed up by universally valuable water, they quickly became a preferred currency across the wasteland.
Yeah,
now,
it's crazy.
Instead of praying that...
it's crazy how communities that have nothing to do with each other, that are just like completely like nothing to do with any other wastelanders, still use bottle caps and still know to use bottle caps. I think it's kind of a plot hole, but it'll be okay.
Whatever you had in your pack was interesting to the local merchant. You could just present a pouch of caps and land a guaranteed sale. Everyone needs water after all. Most of the time, caps weren't even used to purchase water. It was enough that you could get some if you needed to. With just the promise of water, you could buy anything from bullets to bandages. This choice...
Mostly bullets.
...isn't as crazy as it sounds.
Until you get to the point where you're crafting your own, then you don't need that and then you really just don't need caps at all. And then that's when you could just save them up until you can buy some badass upgrades or something.
Pounds. Bottle caps are sturdy, light, and portable, all while being common enough to serve as coins, but not common enough to be worthless. Another huge part of their success was that you couldn't just print more of them. Most of the machines to press more caps were destroyed in the war, and handmade
it's the same concept as Bitcoin.
Counterfeits were too rare
Nuka-Cola coin or Nuka-Cola bottle caps are basically the same as Bitcoin today in our world.
To make a difference. Unlike coins, you couldn't just stamp or cast a new cap, you also had to print the label on top. The most common being Nuka-Cola and Sunset Sarsaparilla, making it even harder to produce fakes. The only people who could make more were the merchant families of the hub. These families were very careful not to overprint, as they were responsible for maintaining the value of this new currency. Overprint.
If you overprint, well, he's probably going to get into it. If you overprint it, it makes it valueless.
Would flood the market with caps, making each one less valuable, a process known as inflation. Yes, inflation still exists in the post-apocalyptic world, and in the unstable economy of the wasteland, that kind of mistake could collapse entire trade markets. They didn't even need to distribute them across the wasteland, as the Nuka-Cola Corporation had ensured that their soft drink had wormed its way into every...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure also that, like, the prices aren't the same across the wasteland. So if one market collapses, then the other markets might not be affected or even know that there was a collapse. Unlike today, when one company collapses and it causes the whole fucking thing to turn red.
Part of the pre-war American world. Everywhere you went, you could find the bright red vending machines dishing out Nuka-Cola for cents on the dollar, with the company having branches in every major city in the country. When news of the new currency swept across the country, these vending machines turned into makeshift ATMs, with each community able to start up their own economy from the remains of the pre-war soda empire. And so the caps spread far and wide through merchant caravans like the Water Merchants, Crimson Caravan, and Fargo Traders. They were even used on the East Coast.
I still haven't played Fallout 1 and 2. I really need to. I need to get that lore and that gameplay.
Thousands of miles from where they first originated in the hub, in places like the Capital Wasteland or the Commonwealth.
I've got a few games that I'm going to be playing on my gaming channel, link down there in the description, before I get to the Fallout series, but I'm definitely going to be doing that soon. I'm going to be doing Fallout 1 and 2 and 3 and New Vegas, and I might get to 4. Not doing 76.
They were too separated
and I'm going to do some mods
from the West Coast merchant houses to be backed up by their water, and were instead used because everyone just agreed to keep up the tradition. Eventually, as organizations got even larger, they started to form proper governments. By 2241, the new California Republic had taken over most of the California
NCR.
Wasteland and had started printing its own money. Unlike caps, NCR dollars were paper notes backed up not by water, but by the gold reserves in its central bank. With precious gold giving the NCR's money value, the humble cap started to be phased out in its territory, slowly becoming almost worthless.
In New Vegas, like, what was the NCR monies for? What could you buy with that? Just like that was the currency? Like bottle caps, it was just NCR money?
Crushing the cap, the NCR was able to extend its own control across the wasteland, but its dominance was short-lived. During the war, the Brotherhood of Steel sabotaged the NCR dollar by utterly destroying all of the nation's gold reserves in a daring raid, causing its value to plummet. With their money no longer really based on anything, people were desperate for a currency that held some water, and so they returned to the humble cap.
Of course.
All across the Republic's
front. They always return to the cap, and they probably will return to the cap until they come to the point where people are able to easily print caps, and then it does collapse the market. Then they'll have to move on to something else. But I don't think that'll ever happen. I don't think we'll ever build a story where that actually happens. I don't think we'll go that far in the future. We'll start making stories that happen at the same time before we start making stories that far in the future, I think.
Frontier and beyond, bottle caps were back in style, and the water merchants, still going strong, were quick to honor their old exchange rate. By now, they and a couple of other major players even had a select number of presses pumping out new caps, reintroducing them to the wasteland as demand rose again. Ironically, A lot of the bottle caps used in New Vegas were never intended to be used to seal bottles and were instead made by the water merchants to be used as money. As it turns out, though, they weren't the only ones producing new caps for the Mojave. Taking advantage of the chaos of the region and the leftover manufacturing plant.
I wonder where they got the idea to use bottle caps in the first place. Like, not in-game, like actually IRL, the developers. I wonder where they got that idea. Because that's just a really good idea, really cool idea.
Plants around Vegas, some cunning counterfeiters were dead set on making their
And this is like a very 90s decision to make for a video game. Like, oh, you know what? We're gonna base it on soda bottle caps.
own caps. In the old Sunset Sarsaparilla bottling plant on the outskirts of the city, there's a fully functional bottle cap press, not under the control of any major merchant house, but still pushing out brand new money. This terrified the owners of the Crimson Caravan Company. Outwardly, they were afraid that the rogue machinery could cause inflation by flooding the Mojave with far too many caps, causing them to become worthless. But the merchant house also had its own concerns. An independent cap press could undermine their own influence over the economy, pushing them out of the business they had dominated.
I didn't realize there was so much in New Vegas that was based around caps and like the cap market. That's kind of cool. That pretty much New Vegas keeps the entirety of Fallout going, and it was based on a game that shouldn't exist. Like, that's crazy that they created all of this lore on accident.
Alongside the other hub factions for generations. Sabotage was the only solution, and the courier was only too happy to provide, being paid in bottle caps, of course. Nowhere was this scramble.
Yeah, Sunset Sarsaparilla was Fallout New Vegas.
Over money better seen than in the city of New Vegas. As a hub for gambling, leisure, and trade, Vegas took all types of money, from caps to NCR dollars, to a new kind of cash slowly trickling in from the east. Across the Colorado River, Caesar's Legion, an army of conquered tribes, were minting their own coins, with merchants from their territory spending them all across the Mojave.
Oh yeah.
Made of solid...
I forgot that in New Vegas they had multiple currencies going on. They had the Caesar's coins, and they had, or tokens, I don't remember what they were called. They had those, and then they had the NCR money.
Gold and silver, the aureus and denarius called back to the Legion's ancient Roman roots. Just like caps, these had their value guaranteed, but instead of water, they were backed up by the gold and silver they were made of, making them almost as widely accepted as caps. Almost. You see, an NCR merchant wasn't likely to deal in the coins of their sworn enemy, and neither was the Legion.
But you could definitely sell them to them, and then use those caps to buy stuff. Like, they're just extra steps.
Willing to use the paper money of the Republic. Both, however, recognized the power of the cap. It was in New Vegas that the bottle cap cemented its reputation as a true universal neutral currency, accepted and traded by all. Surprisingly, this idea of a universal, unconventional currency wasn't developed out of thin air for the Fallout series. In our own world, traditional money was edged out by alternatives in some of...
Are we going to get into the origins of the bottle cap?
Our most trying and desperate circumstances.
Yeah, just ask prisoners. They're using, like, coffee. Like, bags of coffee as currency. Or, like, mackerel. They call them max.
During the Second World War, cigarettes took up the mantle as money on the front lines. They were generally more durable and lighter than paper money, and had a distinct advantage when compared to their home country's money: its universal tradability. If an American GI was sent to the Philippines or Guam in the Pacific, they couldn't count on their US dollars to get them much of anything from the locals, but the cigarettes included in their rations could often bridge the gap, given how common smoking was at the time across all cultures. They could get extra rations, favors, and other goodies using their smokes as a bottle cap-like currency. A similar economy developed in prisons, where traditional money was strictly regulated. For a good long while, they too used cigarettes, as many inmates smoke, and many more value their use as a currency to get what they want in absence of real money. Though in time, they ended up falling out of favor, instead turning to blocks of instant ramen served up by prison commissaries.
Yeah, because ramen, way easier to get than cigarettes, way better for you, and also people need to eat.
when tobacco started to be outlawed. The actual makeup of money isn't really important, but more what you can get from it and what we as a collective decide it's worth. You can smoke a cigarette in the war, you can eat ramen in prison, and you can trade a cap for a sip of cool, clear water in a world gone mad. When
That's
given the
crazy.
choice between
That is kind of ironic that you're trading a soda cap in for water.
money backed up by a government's word, another by the glitter of gold, and the last by the value of water, the choice is easy. Out of all these, there's only one you truly can't live without.
That is true, man. Oh, that was a great video. I'm definitely going to give this guy a subscribe. His name is Echo. I got him linked down there in the description. Should definitely check him out. Yeah, I had no idea. Now I know a little bit more about the Fallout universe. I don't think it's really explained that much in the Fallout universe. I think you kind of just got to pick it up with very small details here and there, and then just finally just put it all together. But this guy put it all together for us. Like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell for all notifications. See you in the next one.